In 2026, the most dangerous person in the economy is the one with a safe pile of cash sitting in a savings account. We have been conditioned to believe that saving money is the ultimate virtue, the hallmark of a disciplined life, and the only bridge to financial security. Your parents, your high school teachers, and your local bank manager all tell you the same thing. Save 10% of everything you earn, put it in a rainy day fund, and sleep well at night. They are lying to you. In fact, if you follow this standard advice, you are participating in a slow-motion wealth confiscation program. Saving cash is no longer a path to security. It is a guaranteed way to lose 5 to 10% of your life's energy every single year to a silent, invisible tax called inflation. Today, I am going to prove to you with brutal, cold-blooded arithmetic that the saver is the ultimate loser in the modern financial system. I am going to show you why $100,000 in the bank today is mathematically destined to be worth $50,000 in purchasing power by the time you actually need it. You aren't building a nest egg, you're holding a melting ice cube while the sun gets hotter. The reason you fell for this trap is rooted in a psychological phenomenon known as nominal loss aversion. Humans are biologically wired to fear seeing a number go down. If you invest in the stock market and your balance drops from 10,000 to 9,000, you feel a physical sting of pain. But if you keep 10,000 in a savings account and the price of eggs, rent, and fuel doubles, the number on your screen stays at 10,000, so your brain tells you that you are safe. The system exploits this glitch in our evolution. It markets the FDIC-insured savings account as a sanctuary, but it never mentions that while your principal is protected, your purchasing power is being liquidated. This is the money illusion. You have been validated by a society that prizes the appearance of stability over the reality of growth. The system was designed to keep you in cash because a population with liquid cash is a population that can be easily taxed through the debasement of the currency. When the government prints money to fund its deficits, they aren't creating wealth. They are stealing the value from the dollars currently sitting in your pocket. It is not your fault you feel the urge to save. You are fighting a multi-generational conditioning campaign designed to make you a voluntary victim of the central banks. Let's look at the hidden math that the personal finance influencers on TikTok conveniently omit. We are going to look at scenario A, the disciplined saver. We will call him Conservative Tobi. Tobi earns $80,000 a year. He lives frugally and manages to save $1,000 every single month. He puts this money into a high-yield savings account earning 4% interest. After 10 years, Tobi looks at his account. He has deposited $120,000, and with compounding interest, his balance is roughly $147,000. Tobi feels like a king. He thinks he is won because his balance is bigger than what he put in. But now, let's look at the real numbers, the purchasing power. In scenario A, we have to account for the real inflation rate. While the government tells you inflation is 2%, your lived reality, the cost of housing, healthcare, and high-quality food, is rising at a rate closer to 7%. In 10 years, that $147,000 Tobi saved will only buy what $74,000 buys today. Tobi didn't gain $27,000 in interest, he lost $46,000 in actual spendable wealth. He worked 40 hours a week, sacrificed vacations, and skipped dinners out, only to find that the system burned nearly 40% of his labor while he was sleeping. He is mathematically poorer than when he started, despite the number on his screen being higher. Now, let's look at scenario B, the asset owner. We will call him Hedge Larry. Larry takes that same $1,000 a month. He understands that cash is a hot potato. He keeps only 3 months of expenses for emergencies and puts the rest into scarce assets, things the government cannot print more of. He buys a diversified mix of low-cost index funds, a small amount of physical gold, and perhaps a fractional share of productive real estate. Larry's portfolio grows at an average of 9%. After 10 years, Larry's balance is $193,000. But more importantly, because Larry owns assets and not currency, his wealth scales with inflation. When the price of goods goes up, the value of the companies Larry owns goes up. When the dollar is devalued, the price of his gold in dollars goes up. In real terms, Larry has preserved 100% of his labor and added a surplus. While Tobi was saving pieces of paper that the government can print for free, Larry was buying pieces of the machine that creates the goods those papers are supposed to buy. Larry is now twice as wealthy as Tobi, not because he worked harder, but because he refused to store his life's work in a depreciating medium. Consider the real-life case of Tobi. Tobi is 45 years old. He has been a good boy his whole life. He has $50,000 in a savings account just in case. In 2021, that $50,000 could have been a 20% down payment on a modest $250,000 home. Tobi decided to wait, thinking he should save more to avoid a large mortgage. By 2026, Tobi has saved another $20,000. He now has $70,000. He feels proud, but that same house now costs $450,000. Tobi's 20% down payment is now $90,000. Tobi is further away from owning a home today with $70,000 than he was 5 years ago with $50,000. The goalposts didn't move, the field was stretched. Tobi is a victim of the saver's paradox. By trying to be safe, he became the most vulnerable person in the room. He is chasing a horizon that moves faster than he can run. This is the reality for millions of people in 2026. They are working harder and saving more, yet they find themselves priced out of the very life they were promised. The bank took Tobi's $50,000, lent it out to a developer at a higher interest rate, and that developer used Tobi's own money to build the house that Tobi can no longer afford to buy. The system used Tobi's virtue against him. This is happening on a global scale. We are currently living through the greatest wealth transfer in human history, from the holders of cash to the holders of assets. The government has trillions of dollars in debt. They can't pay it back with productivity, so they will pay it back with inflated dollars. They will make the dollar worth less, so their debt is easier to manage. If you are holding those dollars, you are the one paying off the national debt. Your savings account is the tax that was never voted on. The reality check is that cash is not an investment. Cash is a liability. It is a tool for transactions, not a store of value. To survive the 2026 economy, you must stop being a saver and start being an acquirer. First, you must redefine what safety means. Safety is not a high balance in a bank account. Safety is the ownership of productive assets that have pricing power. If the cost of living goes up, a good company can raise its prices. A landlord can raise rent. An ounce of gold is still an ounce of gold. A dollar in a bank account has no defense mechanism. It just sits there and takes the hit. Second, implement the zero cash strategy for your surplus. Keep an emergency fund of 3 to 6 months in high-yield account. This is your insurance premium, not your wealth. Accept that this money will lose value and treat that loss as the cost of liquidity. Every single dollar beyond that emergency fund must be moved into an asset immediately. Do not wait for a dip. The dip you are waiting for is often smaller than the inflation you are suffering while you wait. Third, understand the real interest rate. If the bank gives you 4% and inflation is 7%, your real interest rate is -3%. You are paying the bank 3% a year for the privilege of letting them lend your money to someone else. Stop being a philanthropist for the banking sector. Fourth, embrace productive debt. In an inflationary environment, the debtor is the winner and the creditor is the loser. If you have a fixed-rate mortgage at 5% and inflation is 7%, the bank is actually paying you 2% a year to live in your house. The real value of your debt is shrinking while the real value of your asset is growing. This is the only way the middle class can fight back against the debasement of the currency. Saving cash is a scam because it exploits your moral upbringing to make you a predictable source of funding for a system that doesn't care about your future. It turns your most valuable years into a donation to the state. You are being sold the peace of mind of a stable balance so you don't notice you've been robbed of your purchasing power. Your savings account is not a vault, it is a leak. If you want to be truly free, you have to be willing to live with the nominal volatility of assets. You have to be willing to see the numbers on your screen go up and down so that your real wealth can actually grow. Real security is the ability to maintain your standard of living regardless of what the central bank does with the printing press. But the cash trap is the first layer of the control mechanism. The same institutions that want you to save your cash are the ones telling you to buy a house at the peak of the market while taking on a 30-year mortgage that will cost you 3 times the house's value in interest. If you think losing 7% a year to inflation is bad, wait until you see the math on the starter home scam that is currently wiping out the last of the American dream. Stop saving pieces of paper. Start owning the world. Because in a system built on infinite printing, the only way to win is to own the things that are finite.